What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here, and welcome to the GSD Mode Podcast. So real quick, before we jump into today's epic, amazing podcast interview, make sure to check us out at gsdmode.com, where you can see previous interviews, as well as a bunch of other free resources that will help you massively grow your real estate business. Also, if you enjoy and find value and see value in the content here at GSD Mode, make sure that you share the show with somebody that you feel can benefit from the content that we are releasing. This show is possible because of all your support, and your support truly means a lot. Now let's jump into today's interview and go have some fun. Peace. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast, where every single week I interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate professionals, and straight up top badasses that are out there dominating their spaces. They're people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, as well as their families, and as well as make a big impact on others. And that's why they decided to take time out of their precious day and their busy days to be here and share all their brilliance with us. So today, you guys, got another rock star guest on the show. Really stoked to have this guy on the show and pick his brain for us to all learn from him. This guy's a rock star, you guys. He's only been in the real estate industry for 18 months. So in 2018, his first full year, was Rookie of the Year, did $286,000 in gross commissions. Previously, before he got into real estate, he's got 2 advanced degrees in economics and data analysis, as well as past professional experience in investing, community development, and which has really just provided a huge foundation. He's really been able to tap into to go out there and provide a very high level service to his clients. And one thing that I love about this guy more than really anything is just his mindset and perspective. You know, right? How he looks at his clients and how he looks at his overall business. Instead of looking at this as doing sales, as transactions, as making commission checks, you know, right? And I'm just going to read his quote here, but real estate is not simply a transaction. It's a tool for creating wealth, freedom, and lasting legacy. You know, and those that I've met and had the privilege of being able to have an interview on the podcast that are just massive players in the business world, they all have one thing in common, that they lead from a massive place of contribution, and the money then follows, right? To everybody else, to the outsiders that don't know them, it may look like greed, but I've yet to meet any self-made, truly successful person that operates from that mindset, right? It's leading from a place of contribution, the money follows, which our guest is operating from that same exact mindset. So really stoked and honored to have Chad Nash on the show. Welcome to the show, dude.
How you doing? Josh, what's going on, man?
Yeah, no, I'm stoked to have you on, man. Dude, you are on fire, man.
Well, I thought so until, I see some of your podcasts and I see some of these folks who are doing, 100 plus deals in their first year. And I'm like, man, I'm doing baby steps. So, but it's an honor to be on here because I know you really focus on folks who are very productive in the business. So to at least have a little bit of time is an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, no, honor's mine, my man. So, yeah, I'm really excited to jump into what you did over your first year and what you're continuing to do right now today to continue to grow out there and to create the success that you've created, as well as, to be able to grow and expand at the rate that you are. But before we jump into that, I'm always really intrigued in our guest journeys that led them here in the first place. Right. So, I mean, it sounds like, man, you had some, a great career path before you transitioned into real estate. Like, rewind the clocks, man. Like, how did the journey start in the first place?
Well, I was born back in 1980. No, I'm just playing. I do, when folks ask me that question, I like to kind of preface and say where my attitude towards life really began. So I'm a native of Denver, Colorado, born and raised out here. I was a first generation college student. I came from, Denver is not a super rough place, but there are some rougher areas. And I came from one of the rougher areas in the city where we didn't have a lot of opportunities for school and college opportunities. So that led me on the path into education. And my initial career was in education because I had the value system of giving back to others and educating folks and bringing them along the path and helping them to get to whatever goal that they wanted to be in life. So I spent the bulk of my early career in education, moved through the ranks. I was first in the classroom, moved through as a college administrator, working with programs to give back to underprivileged kids. Then I moved into some roles in terms of philanthropy and education, philanthropic investments back into education, community investments, things of that sort. But I, what I always found, Josh, was I would really excel at a job in my early career, but I would get bored. And so, it was a high turnover. It was a lot of high turnover. And I would just kind of feel like, well, I'm not getting really what I want out of this. And is this my true purpose in life? So about 24 months ago, there came a decision in my life where it was, do I want to continue to do the same thing I've always done in the career path that I was in? And I was making, about $80,000 a year. I had my Ph.D. and could have been comfortable and, retired in 30 years. Or did I finally want to step out on that branch and take control of my own life and work for myself? So my first thought was, well, I want to be an entrepreneur. So I knew that real estate wasn't in the cards at that point. To tell you the truth, I didn't know anything about real estate. And the only thing that I probably knew about real estate was what I saw on HGTV, the very fluffy realtors, the fix and flippers and things of that sort. So real estate wasn't really a thought to me, but I was able to cross paths with a mentor who had done real estate previously. And he basically said, well, hey, if you're going to take this new journey of being an entrepreneur in life, get your real estate license. And I was like, oh, no. Don't want to do that. I don't know the first thing about houses. I still feel like I don't know two things about houses, but I was like, I don't know anything about houses. I'm not going to walk into a house and, look at the aesthetics and tell somebody that they have great landscaping. It just wasn't on my radar. And I remember the conversation that him and I sat down. He said, well, Chad, you always talk to me about creating abundance in your life and being able to give back to your community and give back to others and, making a lot of money to, do nonprofits and things of that sort. He said, even if you just go to school and get your real estate license, it will become a pillar of what you want to accomplish. And then he started naming all famous people. And I think the common thread in it was that real estate was always a piece of some of the most successful people in the world. Whether they're real estate investors, developers, they had brokerages, something. Everything kind of led back to real estate. So I went ahead and did the classes at one of the real estate schools out here. And I found that I loved it. I love the material that they were talking about. I love my instructors and their approach to saying, hey, how can you work with clients? And I was the nerdy guy that loved the contracts and the law behind the real estate pieces. And it was like, man, I can really get behind this. And I think at that time, one of my fears, and I know I think we'll talk about this a little bit further. I kept saying to myself, but I don't want to be like one of those typical agents. I think that was one of my fears. I was like, man, am I getting into a profession where I'm going to feel like a car salesman? I'm getting into one of those professions where, a lot of people, when they see realtors or real estate agents, they run, or they don't want to invite them to the property or to the party because they think they're going to try to sell them on something. So when I was in school, I just kept thinking about, how can I differentiate myself? What am I going to do that's different? What am I going to do that's me? What am I going to do to feel comfortable in this new space, coming out of education where everybody thinks you're noble and they love you because you're helping kids, to getting into a field where real estate can be perceived as being self-serving. There's money and, people look at you and they say, well, is he trying to take advantage of me? He's a slimy realtor. So it's a whole different identity shift. But, I got through the classes, figured, and got into real estate after going through, my first couple of months kind of thinking about brokerages and things of that sort, and just ended up loving it. And I think the reason that I found that I could do real estate is because I looked at what my previous career was in that educational sense. And I said, okay, if I make this simple and I just translate my educational background, my values, my heart and wanting to, really just educate folks first and foremost, no matter if they do a deal with me or not, then I can really have fun with this. And I can make this my new classroom. I can make real estate kind of my new platform, my new classroom to just disseminate information and help folks get to where they want to in life.
Yeah, love it, dude. So when you, just out of curiosity, man, when you were making this transition, because you had a good job that you talked about, as you walked us through that, but a secure job, and now you're stepping into all this uncertainty, and there's a lot of people that won't take that leap, and I'm sure that there was some fear there, of man, I can go months, 6 months, or whatever it takes without a paycheck. Was that fear there, or did you just have such a high level of certainty that you'd go out there and crush it? And if it was there, like, how did you move forward regardless of the fear and push through that? Just so if somebody's watching this, because this is a question I get about once a week on the podcast, that somebody that's got a great corporate gig, right? They don't love it. They're kind of where you were at, man. It doesn't fulfill them, but it provides that security and safety. Real estate is what they really want to do, but man, they just get paralyzed out of that fear.
Absolutely. Man, that fear was tremendous. And it was tremendous from a lot of different ways. So I remember sitting back and just questioning myself, saying, if this doesn't work, what am I going to do? Now, I wasn't one of those sad stories where it was like, well, you can't go back and get a job. But I committed myself and I said, okay, I have to make this work. And the motivation that always made it happen for me. So I have a 7-year-old daughter, and when I would continually think about, okay, I'm going to make this leap, I have to make this successful, and it would always be her at the forefront. Like, I have to make this successful for her. Now, I always believed in my work ethic, and I always knew that if I could grab something, I would work at it until I could become somewhat successful at it. And my mind was, hey, if I could at least make 80,000, then at least I can, have the same career or same lifestyle, give to my daughter, provide for my family, things of that sort. So that was always my goal. I said, if I can make 80,000, even 70, 60,000, I'll be okay. But that was my fear, just saying, let me just get in, test the water, see if this is okay. And if real estate doesn't work out, then maybe I can go try to do something else. But I think I was very naive, Josh, and this is, I didn't come in with that, that 6 month savings. I didn't come in with that plush cushion, to just land on to say, hey, I can stop working for 6 months. I probably had about 2 months of savings. And I said, okay, after these first 2 months, if it's not working, then I might have to go work at 7-Eleven or something to figure out what I'm going to do next. So that fear was always there. But I think there was a strong belief in my work ethic, not so much the content, but look, I'm gonna do this until I become successful. But it was also, putting my family first and saying, these people depend on me, So even though I'm taking a new career path and trying something out that's different, and I'm hoping and risking it all for something better, at the end of the day, I still have to provide. I still have to provide, for my daughter's school lunches. I still have to provide for her clothes and gas to get her to school. I still have to do those type of things. So just go get it. You can't fail.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, I mean, it's, I would never recommend or give advice to somebody to make the transition without having some reserves and but you and I did it different, right? Like, we both, our backs were against the wall, and and I don't know, I think that's kind of a blessing. It's like the biggest growth moments of my life has been when man, like I have no choice but to perform. It's a whatever it takes attitude. You got to push. It's kind of, make or break time, and can be, it's a risky position, but, it paid off, man, right? You didn't have a choice but to go out there and execute and hustle. So you talked about when you were in the real estate classes, like you were really pulled to the contracts and the legalities of it and really enjoyed that. But like a lot of, schooling out there, it doesn't, like, you can go get a business degree or whatever, but it doesn't necessarily teach you how to go out there and make money day one. Like real estate school, then it's prepping for, contracts, but day one, you don't know how to go out there and get that first deal, that first client. You graduate school, you got your license. Like what did day one look like? And like, what did you go out there and start doing? And I'm going to piggyback on another question here with this, because, another, I don't want to call it a limiting belief, but another thing that holds a lot of agents back is a lack of self-confidence because they're new, right? How do I go out there and talk to these people and add value to them? Were you able to have a high level of self-confidence from day one because you spent that extra time really mastering the contracts, or did you still have that fear as well?
Man, I had that fear totally. So let me give it to you like this, Josh. So again, kind of going back to my previous career in education and being involved in the community, I'm blessed, and I was blessed at that time to know that I had a pretty extensive network here in Denver. So that was always my thinking was, oh man, people love me for what I do over here in education. They're naturally going to want to work with me as an agent, right? Well, it was the exact opposite. So that first day when I got out of real estate class and I'm sitting there looking, and I'm like, man, people are just going to love me now, because I can help them with their real estate needs. And I remember I posted like my first announcement on social media and did all that kind of stuff that they teach you to do. And I didn't get one inbox. I didn't get one message. I didn't get one phone call, to say, hey, Chad, I just thought people were going to, line up in droves. And nobody called. Nobody, contacted me. Nobody said, hey, we're going to sell or, buy a house with you. So then the fear, you have that fear and you're like, well, hold on, did I make the right decision? Did I, if nobody's going to look at me and, respect this new kind of career that I'm in, how am I going to make money? I didn't have deals lined up, coming into the business. So I think what really helped me initially was, and I think, and it was probably the biggest blessing that could have happened to me. My very first firm that I went to, they paid for what they called entrepreneurial coaching. And basically, I was supposed to go into that firm first to go through their training, and they give you like those real estate coaching classes on, how to do FSBOs and expireds and all that, door knocking, and teach you like all those kind of scripts. Well, I had missed the deadline for those classes. And so then I'm sitting here like, oh shit, I'm not going to learn how to be an agent, right? Because you can learn all the contract stuff that you want to, but now it's like, as you said, the practical piece of being an agent, I was like, well, I don't know how to do that stuff. And I've missed out on this cohort to learn how to be an actual real estate agent. So there was a decision made that, okay, we're going to put Chad into an entrepreneurial coaching class, not a real estate class. And what I have to say, Josh, is for me, and if there's one piece of advice that I could give to agents coming into real estate, it was the biggest blessing, because when I got into that class, it wasn't teaching you how to do the traditional things that realtors are kind of programmed to do, which again is the FSBOs, the expires, the, door knocking and things of that sort. And those are all the things when I came in, I said, well, I don't want to do that kind of stuff. I want to be a different kind of agent. So in this entrepreneurial class, it wasn't so much about those things, but it was about how do you create your social visibility? How do you get people to notice you amongst 6,000 other agents that are in the state of Colorado? How do you provide that differentiator as being an agent when everybody's going around on social media saying, hey, I can help you buy or sell a house? What are you going to do differently? So one of the first tenets that they really taught was it's about social status and it's more about lifestyle. Put all the real estate stuff to the side first and foremost. How do you generate people being attracted to you? How do you generate a sense of charisma that when people look at you, they're like, man, Chad or Josh is a cool person. We just really like what he does. You know, he's in the community, he's with his daughter, you know, doing all those type of things. How do you generate that first? And then how do you position yourself as being an expert in real estate or whatever you're doing to keep you top of mind without sounding so salesy? So the initial approach that I took was increasing, it was about go out there first and increase your social status and your social brand. You know, just be this cool guy and find little ways to drop in there. Oh, by the way, I do real estate. So kind of flipping it on its head, you know, not going out there posting every day saying, hey, you want to buy or sell a house, contact me. Hey, you want to think about investing, contact me. It was just like, be real, be yourself, do what you've always done, just, you know, enhance that image, but also throwing like true stories about, you know, why real estate matters to you. Why does ownership matter to you? You know, talk about your upbringing, talk about, you know, trials and tribulations that you've had to go through with real estate and that you've seen your family go through, that type of stuff, to where people can relate with you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I took that approach first. And what I started to see was when I would post those type of stories, the more relatable stories, not so much the real estate, I can help you buy or sell, people were, you know, the likes were increasing. I would get messages. I would, oh man, that was such a heartfelt story. And then it was like, well, I can just be real with this and tell people like, hey, these are, you know, more authentic stories around real estate that I want to share with you. And if you want to go on this journey with me, let's work together. So using that approach more from building, you know, the social status, I think helped me immensely. Because if I hadn't gone through that program, I think if I had gone through a traditional real estate coaching type of program, I would have learned the same old things that most realtors learn, you know, as soon as they get into the business, and they tried it, and everybody else is doing the same thing. So you're not doing anything different, you know, than other agents are doing. And so I guess just that entrepreneurial mindset that, you know, bring a different value proposition to your clients was the first thing that I learned in that type of program, that type of setting.
Yeah. Love it, dude. And I mean, if you look at any other professional, the businesses that we all are aware of, you know, Apple or, you know, I mean, we're talking, you know, the big players out there, but they don't chase, they attract, right? It's pros attract, amateurs chase. Yeah. Right. And the reason being is you can't scale a business that you're trading time for money. Yeah. Right. You can only door knock so many homes. You can only, yeah. Right. So you know, but you were able to figure that out of the gate, you know, right? And it sounds like, you know, a lot of this was social media postings that you were out there posting on. And then can you just elaborate a little bit on the things that you were posting? Because it's, you know, like as you're speaking about that, and I'm just trying to think of questions that maybe another new agent might have with this of, you know, okay, hey, I get that I'm not going to post, you know, in your face sales, you know, I'm going to be sharing more stories, not selling. But like, hey, if I got a buyer that just closed on a home, I can have a picture of them in front of the house and talk about their journey and their story. But I'm brand new, you know, I'm not out there with clients and necessarily in the field yet. So what were you posting in the beginning, and what type of, you kind of talked about the authenticity and why real estate mattered to you post, but can you just kind of give some more examples just for those that are trying to, because one of the hardest things when it comes to creating content is what do we create it around?
Right.
Yeah, right. So can you just kind of, elaborate on what you started and even how that's morphed to kind of what you're doing today to have success with your posting strategies?
Absolutely. So again, and kind of talking a little bit about the community that I came from in Denver. Back in 2007, I think in my community, we had about 70% of the homes in our area were foreclosed homes, very ravished. And you're still seeing some of the residual of, a lot of the foreclosures and people kind of getting back into that wheelhouse of ownership. And we also had, we have a big bout of what we call gentrification, where you have a lot of development and pushing out of certain populations and neighborhoods and redevelopment, things of that sort. So for me, because I was already kind of connected to the community, it was saying, how can I get in front of folks who these two dynamics haven't, impacted in the past or they're impacting now? And I would just have like very short, videos, or I would have very short, things that I could post on social media about, hey, I talked to Mary Lou, who had her house foreclosed on in 2007. And now, she's rebounded and she's, back into home ownership. And this is the path that she took, trying to make it relatable, because then people could start to see like, oh, it's more about the heart of it, and then we would have, I would post when I would be in community meetings talking about redevelopment zones or, affordable housing in Denver. And, just, it was me being authentic because it was stuff that I would do anyway, but I would like take pictures of like the city council meetings where we're talking about housing issues. And, I would just post on there and say, hey, what do people think about this issue? And people, I think that attracted folks initially because he was like, okay, he's still on the right side of real estate. He's not doing this just for the money. And I wasn't, and I'm not. He's doing it because he really truly believes that ownership opens up a path in individuals' lives and in the community. And he's showing that by showing, hey, he's actively engaged around these issues of real estate and ownership in our communities. So I think that kind of broke some of the ice initially, where people were like, oh, he didn't just flip over to the dark side. He's just doing something different, just in a different lane. So then you would start to get, people reaching out and saying, oh, I saw you at that community meeting, about the redevelopment zone. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And now it's starting to position me as an expert because I could, talk about what's going on in the community. I can talk about numbers. And then that's when questions started flowing. Like, well, we're thinking about doing this with our house, and we're in that investment zone that you were talking about, equity might be going up and appreciation going up. What do you think we should do, Chad? Should we sell? Should we hold on? So you take that layer and having the authentic conversations, and unlike being a regular agent who might go and say, sell, having that data experience to say, look, we're in a pathway of Denver where equity is growing exponentially. We might be double digits appreciation rates year over year, where other places you might see 3, 4, or 5%. And I think people really gravitated to that messaging, because it wasn't about, oh, Chad's just going to make us, try to get us to sell a home, but he's giving us all the perspectives to make a more educated decision. And that kind of, and I hadn't sold a home yet, it was just really the educational piece around, this is my value system that I'm bringing to the process. Have these conversations with me. If you have questions, you already know me from an educator standpoint, so you somewhat probably feel like my message is validated. Let's just have like these critical conversations. And I think that really kind of attracted folks, initially. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. And I love it, dude. I mean, I love too that, a couple things. Number one, I don't know, and I've never seen one realtor outside of you posting that same type of content. So it definitely differentiates yourself, shows that you're serious, but by then I'm guessing, man, because most realtors are going to just be hanging out in the office, watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, or, they're not proactively infusing themselves into city meetings and, things like you did. But then I'm guessing it also, when people would reach out to you on that topic, man, maybe you didn't sell a house yet, but you had expertise in that. And expertise is just more knowledge than the general population, right? Like, wasn't that you had to have get you another Ph.D. in that topic, but you knew more about it. You did become the authority figure that they could reach out to. So, you're being very proactive with it. So I love it, man. A question about consistency with it, right? Because we see, I see so many real estate agents that just hop from one thing to the next, and there's a little bit of a ramp up time, and then with social media, with all the posts that are happening, and like you got to be consistent with your posting, with your messaging, So what did that consistency look like, and then how long did it take, really, before you let's just say signed your first client?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and let me just also be transparent with you too, Josh. So let me kind of hop back a little bit, right, and then come back to that question if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm doing all the kind of social media, and I'm trying to, again, the one thing that I did not expect was that it was going to take so long for my sphere to turn over, for people to trust me. So here I am, right? I am doing all the messaging, and I have this kind of game plan to say, okay, I could be strategic, but at the same time, again, I needed to get deals, right? And I needed to figure out, okay, how can I make this profitable? I can't just be a preacher from social media every day, all day, and not get any clientele. So as I was infusing that in there, and this will get to your point of the consistency, I had to say, okay, well, what was the second pillar that was going to start generating business quickly, right? And that's where I really took the open house approach. And I've seen some of the, GSDs on open houses and all that kind of stuff. I said, okay, if my sphere is going to take a little while to activate because I'm growing this new identity, I need to keep doing that social media stuff to keep me top of mind for my sphere. But here's also an opportunity to say, okay, what is the second pillar of my business going to be? And that's when it became open houses. And the reason why I jumped into the open houses, and I would hear a lot of agents that said, we hate open houses. We're not going to do open houses, and they're such time wasters. And I just kept thinking to myself, there was a gentleman at Remax when I first went in there, and it said, hey, I got an open house that needs to be held. It's brand new on the market. Do I have any agents that want to hold it open this weekend? And I just naively put my hand up. Like, yeah, didn't know how to hold an open house, didn't know the strategy behind it. But I went in there, and what I found was I was in an environment where it wasn't necessarily your sphere, but I could take some of that same messaging, some of that same knowledge, and put that in front of potential clients and leads that were coming in. And I always knew, and this may sound egotistical, but no matter what interview I've ever done in life, I've always done well in terms of job interviews. So I can't remember a time that I didn't get a job because of an interview. And I said, man, this feels just like job interviews. You got clients coming through to the open houses, and they're just asking you all sorts of questions, and they're getting to know your personality. And my goal was to have them leave with a smile. And I said, man, I really like this. I really like this, getting to know new people. And so while I was, continue to do the consistent, pulpit messaging on the social media and emails and in other channels and out in the community doing speaking and things of that sort, I said, okay, I'm really going to invest in this open house concept. And I went through and really started reading a lot about how to do strategic open houses, what was the end goal, getting contact information, how to get the most visibility. And that's what actually brought my first clients. So I think 60% of my business in the first year literally was generated off of open houses. So it wasn't off as just, my sphere. And I'll tell you, I think how it kind of became a snowball. So here I was able to be strategic with the open houses that I was doing and the clientele that I was getting in front of. And, people saying, man, we really like that guy, Chad, or he really stinks. We're not going to work with them. Or I was able to feel folks out and say, they're not serious. They are serious. So here comes my initial deals, my first few deals I get off of open houses, right? Then I was able to take some of those pulpit stories because I got to know my clients, those open house clients, and hey, why are you doing real estate now? How is this transaction going to help you? Now I was able to take real authentic stories, of why was this person in the home buying process or the home selling process. And that same messaging that I was using before, which was the authentic real life, let's, pull back the curtain, what was their real pain points, that kind of stuff, and how was I able to add value? I was now able to put real faces to the transactions, right? So now it wasn't just Chad over here talking, but it was like, hey, here's a client that really bought into, feeling like Chad added value and they trusted him enough to go through this whole process. Here's the end result. So I'm taking that same kind of messaging, and now I'm able to kind of post that on the social media and different channels where they're actually seeing that production, right? So you're going from keeping top of mind with the sphere, kind of putting that on hold because, people don't yet trust you, but now going through the open houses, getting that social proof, with a couple of transactions here and there, and people saying, wow, people really are trusting him. So now you take that same messaging, put it back out. Now the sphere started activating because they're like, oh, he really is a good realtor. He's not just out here saying, stuff to, a street preacher, but he has a social proof. So I brought that into my kind of strategy around social status and social proof and, the social messaging was, hey, I'm not just going to hold up one of those keys at closing and take a picture with my clients, right? But I'm really going to give a true avenue to really tell their story and be very intentional and open and honest about the hardships, the trials and tribulations, what it took to get this deal done so people could relate. And people loved it, and I think people just love that authenticity of being on the inside of the transactions, and not so much of, yeah, I got another deal closed on to the next one. But it was, man, he really, helped it. Well, I hope it was really, he helped to impact, his clients' lives, and now they're raving about him and his service. And then I was able to kind of post that, and it just became a snowball. It became a snowball where people in your sphere are like, wow, that's a great job. And now you got the social proof to add on to it. And that was just my consistent game plan. If I showed you my phone, like my calendar, it became a, every day of every week, one day I'll do a social proof post. One day I would do a Monday motivation post. Thursday, I might do a top of mind, hey, the real estate weekend is coming up. If you have any questions, hit me up. And it was just all very strategic, but it just all kind of wrapped in together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, love it, dude. And when it comes to the social media thing, or social media with the sphere of influence, I'll do this with my team sometimes when they're, because it can get tiring or easy to get discouraged or burn out, if we don't put things into perspective. And when I see my teammates, kind of going down that path, right? And there might be 30 of us in a team meeting, and I'll ask them, all right, how many in this room right now, or in the near future, are thinking about buying and selling real estate, personally? Not one will raise their hand. Yeah, right. And I'm like, see, like, quit getting discouraged that people aren't coming to you, or you're not converting all these leads. That it takes time, right? Some of it may have been that they needed to see the social proof of you out there working buyers and sellers, but then it also just takes that time, right? I mean, it's, like here in Maricopa County where I'm at, I mean, we have about 5 million people,
Yeah.
A million rooftops, right? And there's about 100,000 home sales a year, right? It's a small percentage of the population that's buying and selling at any given time, right? So it takes time to ramp up and build up. And then, but what was cool about you, dude, is you still had faith in it, and a lot of these things is just taking kind of having that blind faith and taking that leap. Was it really that initial training that you talked about, the entrepreneurial training, that like you just knew with full certainty that at some time it would pay off? Because so many people, Napoleon Hill talks about it, Think, Grow Rich, right? Stopping 3 feet short of gold,
Right.
Right? Like even though it took months and months and months, you kept with that consistency. Was it just ingrained in you from that class to just keep at it?
Oh man, that's a good question. And you've probably seen this picture, and not to say this in a religious standpoint, but I always saw this picture of it was like a little boy or a little girl, and there was a picture of God or some like a godlike figure, and they had their hand behind their back, right, with the jewel. But this little boy or little girl was like crying to the figure, saying, "I can't make it anymore." And just how you said that 3 steps short of the goal, they were like one step from getting to that godlike figure who had the big prize behind their back, but they're sitting there crying and they're saying, "I just can't make it. I can't make it." And this figure is saying, just take one more step. You're almost there. Right. And that picture always pops into my head because I think that there was a moment in time where I hadn't got my first deal yet. And I don't think I got my first deal probably until about 2 months in. And I was just like, it's not working. It's not working. And, I was fretting, and I was looking at my bank account every day, and it's just dwindling. Expenses going out, eating, shopping. And I was just like, I don't know if this is going to work. But I can't tell you what it was, Josh, but it was just that belief that kind of chipping away at the mountain. Like I'm chipping away at the mountain every day. I'm getting one more phone call, 1 or 2 more phone calls. Every day I'm getting 1 or 2 more messages. They may not be saying, "Hey, we want to buy or sell today," but people are asking me more questions. And I said, look, if I just continue to be, and I think that's what you were talking about, that consistency, not jumping from, one shiny object to get leads to another shiny object to get leads. But it was saying, if I just continue to do what I'm doing and do it better, at some point I'll be at the top of the mountain, right? And I'll have that first deal. And that's what it was. It was that belief in, and this is one thing that I would really emphasize. It wasn't so much my belief in me. It was belief in my system, in the structures that I was trying to put forth and say, okay, if I really stick to this every single day, at some point is going to work. And so and that's one thing that the entrepreneurial class taught me, is that discipline and that faith, that develop great systems and just do it. Do your system, and it will turn over for you. Don't just say, okay, I'm gonna do this system 1 week. Oh, let me go try Josh's system next week. Let me try Daniel's system the week after that. Do a system and do it continuously and give it a chance to work. Does that make sense?
Yep. Love it, dude. So then, with open houses, so that's 60% of your business. That's, just north of 150 grand in your first year from just the open houses. So you're doing the daily posts that you talked about. Now you're doing your open houses. You talked earlier about, and a lot of real estate agents, I think are congruent to the thoughts that you had when you got licensed of, look, I don't want to be that sleazy salesperson. Real estate agents are at the bottom of the totem pole in the likability index, right? They don't want to be that person. But then when they're doing their open houses, doing the tours, right? They really become paralyzed then in asking for the business, asking for the appointment, asking, and I've open houses, the one commonality I've done for 14 years of my career that's always just crushed it. But I come from a sales background, right? Like I was in the health club sales, and to me, an open house tour is just like selling memberships, right? So, I never really, like, I loved selling. I didn't have that mindset coming in. So I'm really intrigued in a guy that's had so much success with open. You wouldn't have the success with open houses that you did in your first year if at some point you weren't getting the appointment from there, right? So what can you just walk us through, man? Like, what was the tour process like? How are you getting their contact information, and how ultimately were you transitioning from a tour and a great conversation to, hey, let's meet up and talk about your real estate goals?
Absolutely, man. And I agree with you 100%. I said, man, and I think you may have alluded to this in one of your podcasts before, but it felt like it was a storefront office opportunity, for people to come in and you treat it like a storefront. So for me, the process, and do you mind if I kind of outline the entire?
Up, man. Love it.
So as I started getting a couple of open houses under my belt, that I was very raw, and I think people would just kind of gravitate me because of the likability, right? And it would be, oh yeah, we'll sign your piece of paper. But I wasn't strategic initially. It was like, oh, if you sign in, you sign in. If you don't, you don't. Cool, you don't want to work with me. But then I started, again, listening to podcasts and doing more reading on how can you make this strategic. So let me just walk you from how I took open houses from the beginning of the week all the way through, because to me, the open house event wasn't just the actual day of. It was everything leading up, and obviously there's everything with the follow-up. So every Sunday, I would sit down and I would look at who had new listings coming up in the area, or who had new listings from my firm that were working in price points or demographics that I really wanted to tap into. And I had a whole script. I would call those agents and I would say, hey, this is Chad Nash. I have a great value proposition for you. Can I get some, more exposure on your house? First, it was, can I get more exposure through marketing your home via social media? Here's how many followers I have. Here's how many people I have on social media. It's just free advertising for you. And of course, usually the realtors would agree to that. Then it would become, you know what, Josh, if you don't mind, I would love to hold the house open for you this week if you don't have anybody holding the house open. And I would say usually about 75% of the realtors would say, yeah, that's cool. And then I would lay out to them, okay, this is what I need from you. I need to make sure that you change it in Zillow, show the open house, because I wanted to get it widely publicized to as many people as possible. Make sure you change it in the MLS to show the open house, that kind of stuff. And do you grant me permission to start posting the open house on my social media? So again, now using the strength of social media, this is everything that I would do Sunday leading up to the next weekend. So then Monday will come around, and I had this thing called the Doctor's Gems, and I would say, man, look at these great properties that just hit the market. I'm going to be holding this open house. And as you know, most folks don't know if you're holding the house open for another agent or if it's your listing. They think it's your listing. And you're just marketing these great properties and these great pictures. And, people are hitting you up and saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to go to that open house. Or, oh, man, let me talk to you about another house that I'm thinking about. So that's kind of stage one, right? Now, when I got to the day of, and it was like, all right, this is my game day. This is the day that I really want to get amped up. I want to, be on my best. I want to make sure I drink my energy drinks and my focus is 100% there. And I would always have kind of like 4 or 5 things that I wanted to memorize about the house and about the neighborhoods that I could really just sound like an expert to everybody who walked in. And, folks would walk into the house. You would greet them. I had a sign, and I think I seen it on your podcast, or somebody that was affiliated with your podcast, that I made a sign, right? And I wish I had it here, but it was a sign with my picture on it that said, your neighborhood host today is Chad Nash. And, I would have like 5 bullet points of, please take off shoes, please enjoy yourself. I would say something like, if you really fall in love with this house, make an offer today. Just kidding, but we could talk about an offer series, something that would lighten the mood. And then the last one on there, I would say, please, in bold, please make sure to sign in seller's request. Simple. So I already started the kind of expectation as they walked in, so they see this sign, they read it, and they're laughing, and they already kind of have this expectation. So I don't have to hound them to say, hey, please sign in. It was just, hey, Josh, how you doing? What brings you to the neighborhood? Just casual conversations. Well, hey, Josh, I'm going to let you kind of tour through the home and make sure you look at this part of the home because I thought it was interesting, and I would love to hear your feedback on it before you leave, right? So you already kind of left a carrot for them to come back and, give you some feedback. And I was never one of those agents where it was I'm going to follow them around, and I'm just going to harp on them. I wanted them to have that intimacy with the home. I wanted them to know that, hey, I'm here if you need me, but I would love to talk back with you at the end. Made sure I had all of my comps, made sure I had all of the market activity, every piece of material that I could give to them, along with a copy of my listing presentation and buying presentation. So as they were kind of coming back out, it was, oh, what did you think about, that room with the pink flowers? That's crazy, huh? You just having open conversations. I BS you not, Josh, just those conversations and creating that kind of relationship feel. You're not hounding them. You're not saying, hey, I need your contact information. I need you to do all this and that. But having the materials to use as leverage for you're listening and you're having these conversations and they say, well, this didn't really work for me. That the square footage in the bathroom didn't work for me, or the square footage in the master bedroom. Oh, well, Josh, look, I have a sheet of comps here. Would love to, give this to you. And if these are homes in the area, they're not necessarily my listings, but I'll just say, go check them out if you like them. I'm not putting myself out there to say, you got to go with me to look at them. I'm just saying, here's a value add to you. Go check out these homes. But what I would say is, you know what? If you have any more questions about these homes, or you want to set up a showing on these homes, let's go see some of these homes later. Let's go see some of these homes tomorrow if you want to. So those would be some, simple, yeah, I would love to go see some of these homes, or type of deal. Okay, you want to go see some of the homes? Can I get your email address, your contact information? I'll follow back up with you. Or, you just kind of left it at, they're coming through, you're giving them the value add, but they're not really, asking any questions. We'll just be like, hey, thank you for coming. What brought you to the open house? So that was another trigger question that I would ask them. They would say, well, we saw it on Zillow. And that was always a trigger to me. Well, if you saw it on Zillow, you weren't on somebody's MLS search, or your agent didn't bring you here. And that would just kind of trigger to say, hey, well, if you want me to, instead of having to, check Zillow or Realtor.com, more than happy to get you started on a search that would that will allow you to see similar properties all across. You said Maricopa, so Phoenix or Denver or wherever it may be. Do you want me to start you on a search? If so, let me just get your contact info. So that's another trigger. And then if everything, none of that worked, it was just, hey, thank you, Josh, for coming by. Do you mind just signing in, just so we have a record of who came through the open house? And there was a little button on that form that would say, are you represented by an agent? Are you working with an agent? This and that. So immediately, if they hit that button, it will kind of filter out and not go into my follow-up database. But if they said no, even if I hadn't asked them any questions, then I just know now here's a good time to follow up with them, later today or tomorrow. And so I never felt the pressure of having to be like, hey, do you want to sit down and I think it was only on a few occasions did the appointment came straight out of the open house. I think on a couple of deals, it was like, yeah, let's sit down. I want you to, come talk to us about selling the house. But literally my ask would come during a follow-up. So when I would follow up with them the next day or whatnot and say, hey, it was great to meet you at the open house. What did you think about the properties? And they're still asking questions. And I would just simply say, well, would it be worth it for us to sit down and have a conversation? Would it be worth it for us to have a 5-10 minute phone conversation, so I can better know what you're looking for, or if you're looking to sell your house, how I might be able to add value to that process. So to me, again, I never wanted to be that pushy person, right? But I wanted them to leave and say, man, he was so cool and he knew what he was talking about, that when I did follow up, it was kind of like, hey, we were thinking about you. We were thinking about the conversation we had. And now it's already greased enough to say, hey, should we follow up with another conversation? And it doesn't feel so pushy. And it didn't feel like I was just trying to sell you at the open house. I was just trying to get you the information that you needed. Now, is it worth it for us to have a conversation, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, dude, of they've already experienced you, right? And dude, everybody loves to buy and sell. We're consumers. We love to consume, but we hate being sold. Yeah, right. So during that experience, right, I'm guessing that lowered their resistance where, yeah, they feel safer. They feel that they're going to be able to reach out to you and get the information without being pushed because they've already experienced that live with you. And that they probably visited 2 or 3 other open houses and had a different experience.
Right. Absolutely. And exactly. And I think you just hit it on the head there. It was, okay, if I know other agents are, very pushy around getting contact information and following them and hawking them, and, how can I give them a different feeling walking out of here? So that was the main goal.
Yeah. Love it, dude. So then, man, when we first get started, like we have an abundance of time, right? But then very quickly, right, as you start stacking in, next thing you know, you got, 6, 8, 10 escrows and a lot of, when that happens, we get so busy servicing our clients, we take the foot off the accelerator of the postings, of the open houses. When you started racking up clients and escrows and adding all this additional work, like what did you do to, I hate the word balance, but like what did you do to keep it all in balance so you didn't take your foot off the accelerator so you could continue stacking on that, the amount of closings of business you've done?
Oh man. Josh, that's a great question, because I'll give you what I did in my first year, and I'll give you what I actually just did this week as well. So after my first couple of transactions, what I was finding was the pay. So you remember I told you I thought I really loved to do the contracts and all the paperwork and the structural stuff. And I found out quickly, I said, well, I can't do all of that and be this personable person for my clients. I can't be this likable person when I'm, following paper trails and following up, doing the behind the scenes stuff. So the first recommendation that was given to me was get a transaction coordinator. I didn't have an abundance of money. I wasn't in a position to go hire a full-time assistant. And frankly, I didn't need one at that point, but I got a transaction coordinator. So that took a lot of the heavy lifting off of the transaction piece. But as you just said, that was a point in time, I think last year, where I had probably like 8 in escrow at one time. And I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to answer all of these clients' questions and, do all the social media stuff and follow up, with the personal touches to clients. So I kind of took a shift and I hired what I called a client engagement assistant. And, I put a post out on social media. I said, hey, I'm looking for somebody who is just looking for a few hours of part-time work. I knew it wasn't going to be a high-paying position. Somebody that has time to commit to this, preferably like a stay-at-home mom or somebody that's, looking for a little bit of extra cash. And I hired a young lady who had a great marketing background, and she did a lot with like online shopping. So I was able to kind of give her the spiel of what I'm looking to do is make sure that my clients feel appreciated, throughout this process. When I start working with them, very warm touches, maybe a gift card here, relax, we're starting our home journey process. If I have closed clients, making sure we're following up with some gifts and some thank yous, things that I wanted to do in my mind, but I would forget to do because I had so many things going on with, homes that were under contract. So my first initial year was the transaction coordinator and kind of using this young lady as an assistant. And still, this is what brings me to today, right? So being about 18 months in, and I had this conversation with my managing broker, and we started talking about 3 months ago. I said, look, I'm still getting a lot of business, right? And I'm still getting and I have so much business up front that's piling up in the database where people are reaching out saying, hey, Chad, we want to work with you. Hey, Chad, we want to talk to you. Hey, this and that. And I said, but what I'm finding is that I'm losing my personal self. It is becoming very transactional, right? I'm just trying to get through each transaction, to get to the next client and make sure that their service, that their needs are met. So then I ended up about 3-4 months ago, I bought on my first showing assistant, which took that capacity of, okay, if you're getting a lot more listings than a typical young agent, and you want to be focused on that, make sure you have somebody that can really focus on your buyers and give that kind of that 5-star touch to them as they're going through the home buying process. So now I had a client engagement assistant, I had the showing assistant in my TC, all still cheap to me, right? Because the TC is paying about $300 a file. It's paying the assistant, I think probably about $100 a week just to do online shopping for me and those kind of warm touches. And then I had this buyer's agent who I could pay, $25 an hour to just do showings for me. So I wasn't investing a whole lot into, folks that could help me make sure that my business was staying warm with all of my prospects and clients. Now I've gotten to the position where even that structure wasn't working, right? And so at this point last year, I think I looked at it probably a couple of weeks ago. At this point last year, I had 7 transactions, right? This year, I have 19 transactions. So you start thinking in your mind, okay, I have an opportunity to double my production if possible. But what is it going to take for me to get there? And just this week, I'm actually, so this is, I guess I could use this as a great platform to say, hey, I'm creating a team. So actually just yesterday, we went through, hired on my first full-time buyer's agent, hired on I actually shifted the young lady that was in that position originally out of that position. And I got another younger agent who's looking to build her business as well. And I call it the client experience coordinator and then / buyer specialist. So now I have 2 folks that can help on the buyer side. And then one of those individuals can help with the very personable touches and keeping us top of mind as a team and planning events and all that stuff, again, that goes through your mind as an agent. And you're like, man, if I just had time to do that, I would love to do it. So now she's tasked with that. I have a buyer specialist that's tasked with, just getting out and taking care of these buyer leads. And then I also hired on a part-time listing manager. So now looking at the listing side, and what I started to find is you can be a very transactional listing agent. I aspire to be a great listing agent. So you could go in, and this is what I was finding in Denver, is that the typical way agents would list homes is, hey, Josh, let's get your house cleaned up. Let's take the pictures. Let's put the house in the MLS. We're good, right? And you could do that in a market like Denver because houses are selling like hotcakes. but that will become the norm. And what I would say is I want to add a lot more value to my sellers. But what that meant was, hey, let's get the pre-inspector in there. Hey, let's get the general contractor in there. Let's see how we can, make this house its fullest potential. Hey, let's get the videographer in there. Let's get the lawn care service. Let's get the cleaners in there once a week. And then it became a lot of coordination, right? So what I found myself doing was, again, moving from that agent role, unfortunately becoming more of a project manager. And I didn't like that space. So it was, even though I had my buyers taken care of and I was getting a lot more listings, now I was just sitting there a lot of times looking at Excel sheets, making sure, okay, is this cleaner going over here? Is that contractor going over there? Is the lawn care service going? And that's not why I got into the business. So then I hired a listing manager to take on that role of coordination. And what I'm finding is with that model, I think is going to allow me to really open up and get back to what made me successful last year, which was being that personable Chad, doing seminars, postings, just showing a lot of his lifestyle while having a lot of the other aspects of my business covered, that sometimes suck time out of you being an agent, like a good front-facing agent.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, dude. I mean, it is an entrepreneur. It's our job to always be firing ourselves, which I know sounds funky, right? But you're wearing all the hats, of course, in the beginning, but then you get to the point of, okay, what are my highest money making activities? Right. What are the things I can delegate out? And you've done a great job at it. That doesn't sacrifice the service, right? Because, coordinating the house cleaners, those things that doesn't take you to make that happen, deliver great service. It just needs to happen, right? Right. So, no, you're on the right path for sure, dude. That's awesome, man. So then, a question that I have, and I know we're going long on time here, but a question that I have, dude, is you talk about, and I love what you're doing with adding all these additional services, like the cleaning and the, it's differentiating yourself. It's bringing more of a convenience to the home seller. Right. But I mean, these things can cost a lot of additional money, right? And upfront money and like, is that something that you're taking on as the listing agent when you're bringing in the house cleaners, not just the setting up the services, but like, I mean, or is that something you're offering to them that you're covering, and if so, is there some way that you've structured it where, man, if you go get 50 listings tomorrow and they take 3 months to close, where you're not getting yourself in a bind?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's a great question. And I know, we talked before we came on camera just about the switches and brokerages. So when I was at my previous firm, those were all costs that I would incur, right? So I would do a home cleaning for $200. I would do the photos, $200. I had a great videographer that I grew up with. He would cut me a great deal. He would probably do a video for $250, $300, right? And these are all things that I would be able to go to the seller and say, hey, I got you on this, and I would pay for that up front. Now, and how do I say this without making, knocking my previous agency? So I'm incurring a lot of those costs up front, and in my mind, it was like, man, this is adding tremendous value, and we're doing a great job of marketing the listings. Then this large firm, Compass, comes along. So, and are you familiar with Compass?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So here I am at my previous agency, and I'm like, all right, I'm doing a lot of this stuff and covered it on my own. And here comes Compass with a new direction of, when we think about real estate right now, it's either you can go to the left way, which is the discount brokerages and, like the Redfins, the Zillows, the iBuyers, things of that. Or you can go like with firms that have this tremendous backing that allow you to say, okay, what is the best way for the agent to get the homes in tip-top shape for more value? We're not going to discount the value, but we want to get it in more value. So here comes Compass, and we start having these mutual conversations. They find out my name and, all this kind of stuff. And they're, hey, come on over. Oh, by the way, we have this great program called Compass Concierge. All right, well, what is Compass Concierge? And basically what they're able to do is say, hey, Chad, you're already on the right path thinking about adding value to your sellers, with these 4 things that you do up front. How about if we told you we could fund every single part of those things that happen in the listing prep process, plus you can offer your clients an opportunity to make big cosmetic renovations. They can do landscaping, they can do painting, they can do, new flooring, new carpet. And in my mind, I'm like, shit, I'll never be able to offer that to my client. I don't have that much money, right? And that's where that alignment of finding the right brokerage, that aligns with your vision, because I already knew, I said, I want to do something for sellers that's totally different from what they're getting. Like, I want to give them an experience that they feel like they don't have to do anything, and I'm going to help them get their top profit. And just so happens that, I found a brokerage in Compass that has that same value. And so, aligning with that type of brokerage based on my previous experiences has allowed me to just do it more. And that's where I didn't have to hire more folks or get an investor or somebody to bankroll me to be able to do those type of things. It was finding a support system and a brokerage that believed that, hey, these are things that are going to help you add value to your client. And we have this here, we have this platform, and it's not going to cost you any additional money. It's not going to cost your clients additional money, because we believe that this is how real estate should be done. So that's actually the main reason I moved over to Compass, because I felt like it would allow me to become a better listing agent. And it wouldn't just be pipe dreams of, man, if I could really just do this and help my client, do these type of renovations or this type of yard work, or, prep it in this manner, knowing I didn't have a lot of money. I just said, okay, I'm going to find a brokerage that has that same attitude, and it'll be a win-win. And it has been a win-win.
Yeah, that's amazing, dude. Yeah, I'm aware of Compass and have some knowledge of it, but I didn't know that they had that service and went that deep. And that's pretty epic. I've, like, you talked about a moment ago, and as an agent, it's tough to not just fund those, but take that risk, right? And when I've been approached for those in the past, it's like, okay, I'll take on the risk, but man, I'm getting on title. Like, I'm going to get a return on this, and I'm going to get some profit out of this. And then we essentially become a partner in flipping their own home, right?
Right.
You have a model now, an umbrella where, it just benefits the consumer and keeps that risk from you, which is epic, dude. I'm curious, man, and I just got a couple of last questions for you. Now that, 18 months ago when you're first starting, right, it's just, man, how am I going to replace the income? And I want to go out there and service my clients at the highest level and be different, but now that you've experienced the difference that you make in clients and you're getting those testimonials, but then you've also seen the power of leveraging your team, how has your vision changed? Like, what's your vision look like for where you want to take this in the future?
Oh, man. Great question. And just being open and transparent, right? And so when I got into real estate, I never really thought about like the steps, what comes next. Okay. And you sell a ton of houses and you make a lot of money and you have money to do other things. What I started realizing is that I really love the coaching part of real estate. I love the development, the training, and I love the sharing of knowledge, with folks that are looking up to me, or they look at my success and they reach out and they say, man, Chad, how did you do that? Can we just pick your brain for a little bit? How can we do our systems better, our structures better? So when I look at building this team, right, and I think you could look at building teams in a lot of different ways. One can be revenue generating. You're like, I'm just going to make a lot of profit by building these big teams. For me, it really is a chance to get back to that educational piece of me. And it's to say, I want to build teams that are focused on coaching. Like, okay, if I can and it's what we talked about, like the gross and the net of where you are in your career. I said, if I had to net a little bit less by investing in more team members, but I had a chance to do what I really love, which is not so much of the daily grind of showing houses and, all that kind of stuff in real estate, but it's really helping folks achieve their fullest potential using a platform such as real estate and ownership, to springboard their full potential. That's what I would really love to do. So in thinking about like this team model, if I can really kind of step back, within the next couple of years or so and say, I want to build out fully sustaining teams, and I just want to be a great coach for all the team members that come on to these teams. I really want to be involved in their development, their daily lives, their structure buildings, their system buildings, showing them the path that, for better or worse, that I use to generate success in my first couple of years. Just sharing that and saying, this is what I did, and learning more to give them more abundance and all that type of stuff. That's a dream to me, man. Like, that's because now you're not only having impact on your clients that are still going to come to you, but you're having that exponential impact through others, onto others. And if I can do that, I feel like I'm right back in the educational space, man. I feel like it's just a pay it forward. Hey, let me help you be your best persons, because if there's more mindsets out there that think like this, then we're giving that to, 100 times more clients than just Chad trying to run around and saying, hey, I could give this to 20, 30 clients a year. If we could give this to 300 clients a year, man, that's a dream. So I guess really building a brand, a mentality around real estate and why we do this, and bringing on team members that have that same ideology, and just coaching them, and then me learning from them as well, because I'm still young in this and there's a lot more growing to do, but finding good, like-minded people to grow and do it with.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, man. So knowing everything that you know now, if you could go back and have a conversation with yourself 18 months ago when you first entered this industry, and give yourself 2 pieces of advice that would have really fast forwarded your trajectory to the success path that you're on, what would those 2 pieces of advice look like?
Ooh. One is going to sound cold, and it's probably going to sound counter to how maybe you think about it or other realtors think about it. The one thing I learned is that you got to take the emotion out of this business. And we kind of hit on it before. Everybody, Josh, how many realtors do you know?
Yeah, thousands.
Right. Let's just say a regular old Josh that just walks around the street, you probably know at least 10 in a day, right? So one thing I had to really learn was take the emotion out of this thing. And what I mean by that is that when I first started, I would really get kind of butthurt, right? Even though I gave you the stories about the sphere and having those conversations, I would really get butthurt when I would see postings of other realtors, working with friends or associates or people in my sphere, and they did a deal. And I'm like, why didn't they do a deal with me? And I really had to learn, take that emotion out of it. Don't give up. Don't feel like, oh, you're not going to be successful at this just because somebody is using another realtor. They chose to go a different direction. It's just like you said, there could have been a ton of things going on in that person's lives that you didn't know about, or you weren't yet at that level to say, hey, they have full trust in you to do a real estate transaction. And don't focus on that. Don't focus on, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I took that route of saying, yes, I want my sphere to begin to believe in me, but I'm not going to stoke my career and my trajectory hoping that those folks closest to me are going to get me to the level that I need to be. And that's, again, where it came into that second pillar of saying, okay, if my sphere is not yet there to where they're, gonna, allow me to make 300,000 GCI, then I need to find another way to get my name and my brand out there, right? And that's what I kind of did through the open houses. So I guess that would be the first piece of advice. Don't get so caught up on, having this idea that the people closest to you are going to be your springboard to, riches and fame in this industry. There's still a lot of work that has to go on to get that sphere to activate. And I think the second piece, and we didn't talk about this part. So after I had my initial success, right, kind of got some deals rolling, and I think every realtor kind of goes in through this. So I had more money than I ever had, right? And well, actually, we did kind of talk about this a little bit, but I had more money than I ever had. And I started saying, man, well, let me go try this, right? And so I did kind of get away from that consistency of what allowed me to get to where I was. It was, oh, let me put a couple thousand into Zillow leads. Oh, let me go, try this. Let me go try that. And I would just thinking like, oh, I got a little bit extra money. I'm going to go try different things. I think it goes back to what you said. Just be consistent. Be consistent. Find something that works and just drill down deep into it. You don't have to be the realtor that knows every single aspect of real estate. You don't have to feel like, oh, I got to learn again, like the door knocking or online lead generation or, cold calling. Or if that's not you, don't do it. Just find those, one or two or three key areas that you're really good at and just focus on it. And that's where I think, when I started being very strategic about like the open houses, it was like, all right, this is my business. Open houses are my business. I'm not going to jeopardize time to say, let me go to a seminar on, FSBOs and expireds if I know that that's not going to benefit me moving forward. Find what you're really good at and just become an expert in it. You know what I mean? And don't feel like, don't chase all the shiny things, shiny objects that come along that says, hey, we can get you more leads if you invest a little bit more here, or go do this, program to get an expired call list to grow your business. Focus on what you do well and just go after it.
Yeah, powerful stuff, dude. So if those that are watching and listening, man, if they want to follow you, check out what you're doing, I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel. So I'm if I'm wanting to do the social media awareness like you've done, yeah, right, I'm just going to go out there. It's R&D, man, rip off and duplicate, right? So if people want to check out maybe what you're doing, put some visuals to the things that you talked about, or maybe they have a referral for you in your Denver market, or maybe somebody that's watching or listening to this is in your market and, resonates with you and has an interest in joining your team. Where's the best place, Chad, to get in touch with you, to connect with you and stay in touch with you and follow you?
Absolutely. So my website is www.redgroup.com. So that's www.redocgroup.com. I'm also on social media, Facebook, Instagram. You can find me with the handles of the real estate doc. So I go by, that's kind of the identity I try to, the brand I try to create, real estate doc 303. That would be my Facebook. And I think on Instagram, it might be real estate doc or real estate doc 303, but they'll see my ugly picture using one of those handles. I use social media a lot. I try to be a social media personality in my own head. I'm not as cool as Josh Smith in that regard, but just chat through there. And I post a lot of inspirational things and things that I do and educational pieces, and folks can feel that.
Yeah, and those that are watching and listening, we're going to have all those links and all Chad's social handles below to make it easy. And so if you're watching and listening, those will be right below, so you can just connect with Chad by clicking those. So I know we end every podcast with this, but information without implementation is truly just the start of delusion. Information isn't power. It's taking that information, taking massive action on it, which gives you the power to go out there and create the life that you know you want and deserve. And Chad shared so many amazing pieces of advice with you today. Make sure to take something that you learned and again, go out there and take massive action on it so you can go out there and create the life that you know you want and deserve. And Chad, truly appreciate you being here, man, taking time out of your busy day to be here. Dude, this has been epic. And man, just keep at it. Keep kicking ass, dude. You're crushing it.
I appreciate it, Josh. I appreciate it again. Follow you religiously and just hope to keep learning from you as well.
Yeah, it's an honor, my friend. All right, you guys, thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.
Have a good one.